Hi, I'm Phil, and welcome to the Xbox Show.
This week has brought us the biggest leak in gaming history. We know a lot more about Xbox and its partners' plan all the way into the future. We know Xbox's plan all the way to 2030. We know about their mid-gen refreshes now. We know how much it costs them to get games on Game Pass. And we also know a few details about Bethesda's launch plans for the next few years. We know how Satya and other execs feel about Game Pass, and more importantly, how Phil felt about the drought of first-party title releases in 2022. We'll dive into all of that and much more. But first of all, let's talk about this podcast. You're listening to the Xbox Show Podcast, Episode 3 for September 20th, 2022. If you're listening to us for the first time, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button on YouTube, or if you're listening to us on any of your preferred audio platforms, get to give us a follow. We try to release a podcast every week. We haven't been on a good cadence yet, but we're just getting started and we would love your support. So, as you can see on your screens right now, if you're looking at the video podcast, you see the cylindrical Xbox Series X. That's the refresh. These are the two major deals that have come out of this leak, and people are talking all about it. We will dive into that and much more. But let's start with the entire presentation to begin with. First of all, this leak came in from the FTC versus Microsoft trial that is going on, the California District Court, I believe. The issue was that Microsoft's lawyers effed up. They made a mistake. A very simple looking document, they accidentally had 185 megabytes of confidential data that was unredacted, and it was going all over Twitter, all over threads, everywhere. Everyone was talking about it. There was so much of talk that Phil Spencer had to step up and send out responses to them. They generally don't respond to leaks, but the first time Phil actually sent out a tweet, and he also sent an email to the entire team at Xbox. So let's read through them. First of all, Phil says on Twitter, or X, whatever we are calling it these days, we have seen the conversation around old emails and documents. It is hard to see our team's work shared in this way because so much has changed and there is so much to be excited about right now and in the future. We will share the real plans when we are ready. And that's because these documents are mostly from 2020. So a lot has evolved since then. A lot has changed. But we still get a lot of insights into Microsoft's plans and its partners' plans. The email that Phil sent out to Microsoft and Xbox employees, it reads as follows. Team, today several documents submitted in our court proceedings related to our proposed acquisition of Activision Blizzard were unintentionally disclosed. I know this is disappointing, even if many of these documents are well over a year old and our plans have evolved. So, maybe not 2020, maybe 2021, 22 is when these documents are from. I also know we all take confidentiality of our plans and our partners' information very seriously. This leak is obviously not us living up to the expectation. We will learn from what happened and be better going forward. We all put incredible amounts of passion and energy into our work, and this is never how we want the hard work to be shared with the community. That said, there's so much more to be excited about, and we are ready. And when we are ready, we'll share real plans with our players. So that is to continue with what he said in the tweet. We will share real plans when we are ready. We are not going to release everything because everything leaked. They will follow up through their plans and then release when they were actually planning. Continues in his email to his employees. In closing, I appreciate all the work that you pour into Team Xbox to surprise and delight our players. In the days and weeks ahead, let's stay focused on what we can control, continuing the amazing success of Starfield, the upcoming launch of incredible and accessible Forza Motorsport, and continuing to build games, services, devices for millions of players to enjoy. Well, this is the email sent out to employees just to make sure, let them be assured that, okay, we are on top of this, we are following up on the plans. because this leak actually shared a lot of things that obviously we were not meant to see. Like, it has monetary values and how they rate all these games and how much partners like Take-Two charge Microsoft to put Red Dead Redemption on Game Pass or GTA 5 on Game Pass. We'll get through all of that today, but let's keep going. All right. So the first major document that we'll go through is the one that shares Microsoft's roadmap to 2030, gaming devices approach document. And in one of the leaked document, it said that Microsoft wants to achieve industry-led leadership by 2030. I am not sure if that's achievable. Maybe if they keep being very, very targeted and trying to delight their customers, I would say. Game Pass is a good way to get there, but I don't think they're getting the number of subscribers they initially hoped they would. So we'll see. Let me know how you guys feel about Microsoft wanting to be the industry leader by 2030. If it's achievable, why not? All right, let's keep going. So, why the roadmap till 2030 is the first question. So, what they're trying to address here is they're trying to inform on their go-forward programs, technology, investment, and devices to drive the growth over the next 10 years. So this was essentially a 10-year plan that the gaming team presented to leadership, and that's what they're trying to do. The main goal is to get 100 million Game Pass members by 2030, and that does not include Game Pass Core, which used to be Xbox Live Gold. Basically, Xbox Game Pass for console or Xbox PC Game Pass. They want 100 million Game Pass subscribers. But essentially, I think they're hoping to get a lot more cloud-only Game Pass subscribers. So they're going to they walk in this document through the path to their 2030 goals. The first thing they talk about is that the console business is the foundation. Consoles are considered a key health meter for the brand and will continue to drive the majority of revenue and subscribers. That's the hope, right? Because Microsoft doesn't have a mobile platform to compete. Because you can see that Apple is coming with the iPhone 15 Pro Max, which can do amazing native games like Resident Evil and Death Stranding, and all of those games are coming in native. So Microsoft is not going to launch a phone, but they already have this consumer-focused brand that is Xbox, and that's their way of being in the minds of people and being a key health metric of how the brand is doing. They are also looking at new endpoints. The new endpoints are actually essential to get to the 100 million members. Unlocking new off-console endpoints and improving the experience will substantially grow subscribers over the next 8 years. So they are hoping they'll get more subscribers of Samsung TVs where you can play Game Pass games with just a controller. So that controller is your entry into the Xbox ecosystem. You don't need anything else. Or if you are playing with a mobile controller on your iPhone or an Android device, they just want you to subscribe to Game Pass. That's what they're trying to achieve here. They're trying to create new endpoints. And as I was mentioning, they think that the controller becomes the new hero for the brand. The new Xbox controller is the only thing you'll need to play on every device. This low barrier to entry will fuel subscriber growth. I'm not sure people are still very open to the idea of subscribing to Game Pass just for playing on cloud, but we'll see. I'm hoping they do, so that the Xbox brand stays in the limelight. They get the subscribers, and they're a healthy business. That's why we'll keep getting new consoles and games. Next up, they talk about personalization and customization. Personalization and customization continue as a hardware strategic advantage and keep profit driver and customer delighter. This might be talking about the Xbox wraps, the Xbox controllers. They sell a lot of controllers with custom controllers, custom game controllers, or even Xbox Design Lab controllers. Those are main profit makers because they lose a lot of money on every console they sell. All the console sales are actually subsidized, so they can get more market share. With the Xbox being more powerful than the PS5, Xbox is actually taking a bigger loss on each device sold, and the PS5 still sells for $550 in a lot of markets. All right. And then the final key aspect and the path to 2030, their main key tentpole and the flag in their path is sustainability and accessibility. Continued progress towards reduction of carbon tax impact, re-energizing our journey of inclusion. So they are trying to make carbon neutral products, and they are also trying to re-energize their inclusion data. As you might have seen recently, Microsoft has been very inclusive with all of the accessible accessories. Right? The Microsoft Xbox Adaptive Controller is an example, and then they have pushed the industry to do so. So PlayStation now has an adaptive controller, and Microsoft has come up with a lot of pens and stuff for their Surface devices that are very adaptive, and they have grips so that people with limited mobility of the limbs can. So all of that rolls into this big tent pole of sustainability accessibility. All right. So next up, there is a collection of slides that walks us through what Xbox gaming looks like today, what it looked like at Xbox Series launch, and what they hope it looks like at 2030. Currently, when we are talking about Xbox gaming at the Xbox Series launch, which is the Series X and S, this is what Microsoft defines as the ecosystem. Low-end and mid-PC, followed by the console. So the console are the mid-tier, and then you have people with high-end PC. This is the main platform, so as to say. And then there are designed for Xbox accessories, like the Xbox headset, Xbox wireless headset, and the wired headset, the Xbox core controller, and the Xbox Elite controller. Talking about Xbox gaming today, we are browser on mobile using Android and iOS, that is talking about Game Pass on the cloud, smart TVs, low-end and mid-PCs, third-party streaming sticks, and set-top boxes. I'm not sure if they have that there, or is this just an older slide and they were hoping to get it and never acted on. Then there's the cloud device. There's a image of a prototype cloud device that was supposed to be launched last year, but I think Microsoft canceled the plans. This was supposed to be a cloud-only Xbox device, so you can only play Xbox Game Pass on the cloud. And for that, you will basically just have a small streaming stick, streaming device, streaming box, I should say. It was about the same size of Apple TV box that you get today. So that device has been cancelled. So this should be off this slide right now if it was conditioned from today. But because these slides are older, we have some things that were on the plan. But then there are consoles, the Xbox Series S and X, followed up by a high-end PC, and they also talk about Cloud Blades. The Cloud Blades is basically, when they say Cloud Blade, I am thinking they might also mean they are trying to get PC Game Pass games on cloud, so they are dedicating spaces there in their server rooms to actually have Cloud Blades that can run PC. Well, because they already support the Xbox Cloud Blade, right? And then looking at the design for Xbox journey, that still stays the same controllers, same headsets. And there are two words, sustainability and accessibility, very much highlighted today. And moving to Xbox gaming beyond, this is what they think Xbox gaming will be in the future. So, still has all of those things that we talked about in the previous slide. I still see the cloud device, so this is pretty sure this is before the cloud device was cancelled. There is a handheld in that image, and it looks like it has the Xbox face buttons. So maybe Xbox was at some point planning to develop a first-party gaming handheld like the Rogue Ally or the Lenovo Legion. I even forgot the name of the Lenovo. So maybe Xbox was planning to do that. And then on the console end, we see the new refreshed Xbox Series S. We'll talk more about the refreshers in a bit, but it's interesting to see that they have it mentioned right there. And even looking for the design for Xbox category, they have a one-hand controller. I don't know what that is supposed to do. How are you going to play games with one hand? I'm not sure what was the intention there. Then we have the mobile controller that looks like a Backbone One. So that will be Backbone One or the Razer, Kishi, all of these third-party controllers. Audio is still the same, the headsets, the core devices, the core controller, the Elite controller is still there. But then there is this premium controller that we'll also talk about. That's also included in this league. So there is a premium controller coming. And then there is a gaming keyboard and mouse. So maybe they are trying to partner with third parties to create Xbox branded keyboard and mice. And because your Xbox Series X and S already supports mouse and keyboard, maybe they are trying to sell that as driver for more accessory, because obviously they make more profit on accessory. Don't make any money. Even talking about handhelds, I don't see any handhelds in the design for Xbox category. All the handhelds I see are in the main category, that is Xbox's input. Maybe the plans have evolved since the release of the Rogue Ally and the Legion Go. I don't know. That's just speculation. Maybe Xbox comes up with a Xbox Series Portable at some point, if they get enough cloud consumers. Or I don't even think this has to be cloud. This can be just a full-blown Xbox PC, and portable PC like you see at the Asus ROG Li or the Legion Pro, but this can have like a custom Xbox interface. But then that will restrict you to Xbox games. I don't know how they're planning to do it, but if they can somehow get it to be a ubiquitous device that can run both PC Game Pass games and Xbox games, that would be sweet. That's why I think they have not announced it and they're working towards it, because that will be the end goal for them, to maximize all the Game Pass games on the device, and so that they can get more and more subscribers and more customers with. And then talking about the leadership in gaming. So Xbox Game Pass subscribers, today they are divided into a lot of different sections. They have started off with the main driver of Xbox Game Pass subscriber. That is the console first multi-device gamers. They are console gamers that game on Xbox Game Pass console or Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. And when we look at the chart, even in 2030, they're estimating it to be close to about 55 million subscribers on console itself. So FY23, we see that number closer to 35 million subscribers. I think the last number they told officially was 25 million, but from the graph, it looks like a 35 million number for the console first gamers. And we have about 5 million of PC first gamer, and they don't expect that to grow that much. Looks like about a 15 million, 10 million. I would say about a 10 million estimate by 2030 of PC first gamers, that is people who just subscribe to Game Pass, not Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. And then finally, the main growth that they think is going to come from the cloud-first gamers. These are people who have smart TVs and streaming stick apps, low-end PCs, or they are limited to mobile only. And while looking at that, but at the current stage at FY23, they are talking at just the smart TV app. They are looking at smart TV app as a growth market where Game Pass subscribers will grow. And then in FY25, end of 24-25, they're talking about the universal wireless controller. That's the new controller that will be coming out, and they're hoping that will push more growth, followed by the mid-gen console refreshes. And then finally in FY28-29, they're talking about 1010. So they're going to launch the next generation of Xboxes in 2028. Well, also going and diving deep into their gaming devices business innovation. This is like a platter for leadership. Not really much to do with us, but let's go through this. The development model innovation is one thing they're talking about. They're talking about outsourced development model for the wired and wireless headset. They're going to follow up on that. So what it seems like to me is Microsoft internally didn't develop the Xbox wireless headset. They had was more like a JDM model, as we call it in product design, which is joint development model. So So basically, they would have a supplier like Foxconn, or there are multiple suppliers, obviously, right? So they would have one supplier that is going to develop it for them, and there will be a very skeleton team of Xbox engineers working with them to help them develop this. While the majority of the work is taken by the supplier Foxconn, or whoever the supplier is. I don't know which one it is, but I'm just Foxconn being the biggest one up there that develops most of the iPhones and a lot of products for Amazon. Just an example, I don't know Xbox works with Foxconn, but what they would essentially do is Foxconn engineers are going to go ahead and develop everything, and there will be a few Xbox engineers that are working alongside them to give them guidance and make sure that it aligns to the Xbox core values and the quality that Xbox hopes to meet. And what that does, it reduces the fixed cost on Xbox's end. It reduces a lot of headcount of all these engineers that would need to work on these devices. Because if you look at a headset, it looks very simple, but then comes the driver design. So there's someone who's going to go ahead and design the drivers in your headset. There's someone who's going to design the outside cell of it, the microphone, and then there are various interactions in audio that they need to be aware of. All of that work will most probably be done by someone at one of the supplier sites. That's what they mean by development model innovation. And then there is the one-hand controller. They mention Horn partnership. I'm assuming Horn is the supplier in this case, and somehow they're looking at a one-hand controller. I don't really understand what the plan with the one-hand controller is. The only way I would think of using a one-hand controller is if you are actually just browsing media. Like when I am looking at YouTube or when I am looking at Netflix and stuff, I would prefer to have a single remote. So what I generally do is I just my LG remote for the TV and browse through Xbox. We'll see when that launches. That is an interesting product. I don't know what the actual plan there is. Then there is platform development efficient. Headset platform, 70% of the Norland tools reused for Englewood. So Norland and Englewood, these are basically code names for different headset platforms. And they're trying to basically reuse a lot of the components from their previous generation, which is standard. Not previous generation, I should say, from the current generation, but if you have a different variation. So, for example, you have the wired headset and the wireless headset. With the wired headset, I'm assuming Norland and Englewood are the two Xbox headsets. So 70% of Norland tools reused for Englewood. So if Englewood is the Xbox wired headset, then you can see that they can basically reuse the entire structure of the device. They can reuse all the drivers, all the mics, everything as is. Only thing they will change is remove the VT radio from the device and add a cables to connect to it. So they have used a lot of same products, and that saves fixed costs, but at the same time creates new products in the market, creates a fresh buzz about the products, about the brand, and gets more customer to use it. Especially with the wired headset, it was $50 cheaper than the wireless one, so got into the hands of a lot more. Customization is our core build process. So one color, one quality, two routes to market. So that's basically talking about the consoles. They have one color for Xbox Series X, one color for Xbox Series S. That's the two routes to market. That one is the high-end console, one is the lower-end next-gen console. And they also talk about maximizing build efficiency, and they give Starfield headset as an example. So maybe Englewood was the Starfield. I don't know. So the Starfield headset, as you know, looks exactly the same, but it's made out of different materials, different colors. So they're more transparent. There are transparent knobs and everything. So that's what drives maximum build efficiency, because they're basically reusing a lot of comp. The last thing they talk about in this section is regrind and obsolescence mitigation with Fenwang. Don't know who Fenwang are, so yeah, I'm not going to speculate on something that I don't know about. Yeah. All right. And the final core principles in their business innovation is continuity of supply. They talk about numerous efforts to ensure stock continue to flow to retail shelves. As we've seen with this new series controllers, the supply has been really bad. You couldn't just walk into a Best Buy or walk into a store near you and grab an Xbox. It was always a scramble, get an Xbox. Recently, it has been a lot better. You can see Target or Best Buy being stocked with all of these Xbox Series X's and S's. S's were more available initially too, but the Series X's were hard to get in it. And then there is a software-based security to alleviate longer-term concerns about hardware-based security chips and cost saving. So that's something they are trying to focus. All right. With all of that said, let's take a look at Brooklyn. That's the code name for the Xbox Series X refresh. And the main theme that they are going with is the most powerful console, the most powerful Xbox ever, now adorably all digital. I know a lot of people will have a lot to say about it. A lot of you might not like the all digital version if you are using the discs a lot. I personally use discs a lot. Even though I have Game Pass, I have a lot of subscriptions, like Ubisoft Plus and others. I buy a lot of games digitally most of the time, but then sometimes you get these deals on Amazon. Like I bought Far Cry 6 for like $6. There was a lightning deal for Far Cry 6. I recently got Diablo 4 from a friend. If we go to this all digital version, I don't know. I don't really like that. But that's just me personally. I don't really love that there is no option to go disc. But then, if you look at PC gaming, I'm pretty sure your PC doesn't have a disk drive, and like almost 100%, right? I would say, or let's say 99%. Maybe somewhere someone has a disk drive, play games on PC. But everyone on Steam, Epic Stores, Xbox, everyone is just using digital downloads and digital games instead of buying CDs. So maybe this is a push to get us to all digital, and maybe they are seeing the numbers, like the number of games bought on physical media versus digitally is such a discrepancy that they are trying to push this all digital version. So let's dive deeper into this. If you're not looking to the video, and if you're listening, audio platform, let me tell you what this device looks like. It looks like a cylinder. Basically, imagine the current Xbox Series X, shave off the sharp corners, and that's how it looks. It still has the grill on top. We don't see the back of the device, so we don't know what that looks like. There will be ports obviously there, so there might be a flat bit there for the storage expansion card, all the ports, all the IOs back there. Brooklyn will deliver 4K Gen 9 console gaming with more internal storage, faster Wi-Fi, reduced power, a more immersive controller, and a beautiful redesign that elevates the all-digital experience of the Xbox ecosystem. They are really going all in on the all-digital version. And then they divide the refresh into 3 sections. First of all, the one that a lot of gamers don't really care about is the improved sustainability story. So the PSU uses 15% less power. It will save your electricity bill, so maybe it matters. New low-power standby mode is 20% of the current Xbox Series S standby mode. So the Xbox Series X, this standby mode will be 20% less power consuming than the Xbox Series S's, which is great, right? Will save you a lot of electricity bill. Increased use of PCR on the housing to 30%. So that's good for the environment. What that means is the housing, the Xbox housing is now going to be built with 30% post-consumer recycled material. And then they're talking about 100% recyclable packaging. So that's great as well. Like packaging, I have still saved my Xbox Series X packaging, but a lot of people just take the Series X out and throw away that carton. So that's the recyclable. Now let's talk about the updated technologies. All new Southbridge to modernize the I/O and sustainability effort. So I don't actually know what a Southbridge is, but something to do with I/O. Then they have Wi-Fi 6E radios for better throughput, latency and interference mitigation. So Wi-Fi 6E is the new standard that a lot of new devices are using. Intel just announced Wi-Fi 7 today. But yeah, Wi-Fi 6E is great. It can actually get better download speeds on your consoles. With it being all digital, it makes sense to get Wi-Fi 6E. Bluetooth 5.2 radio for improved accessory experiences. So I'm not sure how much of an enhancement that is with the 5.2 radio. But yeah, better connectivity to your controllers, to your headsets. And then finally, 6 nanometer die shrink for improved efficiency. That will basically save cost to Microsoft. They are going to get much less PPMO, which is damaged per mil object or something like that. So yeah, they will improve the efficiency. They will have more usable products and less rejects per lot. And when it's a smaller die, you have a smaller wafer and fit more of those in the same size wafer. So that's great. That saves cost for Microsoft. So they might reduce their losses somewhere. And finally, talking about giving our fans more to love. So the beautiful and innovative new design. They talk about this beautiful and innovative new design, which is basically the cylindrical design. More internal storage for games. So yeah, Xbox Series X already came with 1 terabyte compared to 885 on PS5. And now they are going to bump it up to 2 terabytes, which is great. They have a USB-C front port with power delivery, so that can basically charge your controllers near your Xbox. So that's great. No one uses Xbox the USB-A ports anymore, essentially. And all new immersive controller, we'll look at that soon. And then the same great price of $499, which is great actually. They're saving cost on the Blu-ray drive and the improved die, but they're adding 2 terabytes of storage. So adding 1 additional terabyte, so 2 terabytes of storage. Great. I love that. I love that price point. Let me know how you guys feel about this cylindrical shape and it being all digital. I personally don't mind it, but I don't know, what will I do with all my physical games that I already have? Would they come up with an accessory like they did in the Xbox 360 days, where you have a digital drive that you can plug in if you need? If that's the case, that's okay. I'm okay with that. All right. Now let's go to L-word, Xbox Series S refresh. Things are not as exciting with the Series S. With this almost same as the X, but no form factor change. It still looks exactly the same. Sustainability story is still exactly the same as Series X. They are doing the modernizing the I/O, modernizing the Wi-Fi 6E and Bluetooth, same as the Series X refresh. And for consumers, they have the 1 terabyte internal storage, all new immersive controller, as we said, and the same low price of $299. So the current 1 TB version of the Xbox Series S is $349. Maybe cheaper than that. That's interesting. I'm not sure if their plans have evolved because they're taking so much loss on this. And I heard during these leaks somewhere that 75% of Xbox consumers are Series S consumers. So maybe they're trying to cut losses, and that's why it's $349 right now and not $2. I guess we'll never know. All right. So the bullet point is L-word will deliver Gen 9 console gaming with more internal storage, faster Wi-Fi, reduced power, and a more immersive controller, all for the same affordable. Right? And there we have it. This is Shelby, the new Xbox controller. The world's best controller now playing on a screen near you. So that's their main push. They're going to try to get this controller as the low entry barrier. And there are a lot of things on this controller that are unique. First of all, it is ubiquitous, as we all know. It has Xbox Wireless, but it says Xbox Wireless 2, Bluetooth 5.2. And then there is this direct-to-cloud thing. I don't really know what that means. Like, there's must have something to do with the latency and how they can, if they're connecting to cloud gaming sessions, the new controller can be better direct-to-cloud gaming. There is seamless pair and switch. On the new mobile app, you'll see the paired devices and cloud as separate entities, and you can switch between devices easily, and you can manage devices and access it. Cool. And the thing that I am most excited about is the immersion. They talk about feeling the game. It has precision haptic feedback and VCA haptics that double as speakers, which is interesting. So these are basically like screen shakers. You might have heard about a few companies that use screen shakers on your TV. They will essentially shake your screen back as speakers. They're trying to do similar thing controller. Basically, your controller vibrates at such a frequency that it doubles as a speaker instead of actually putting a speaker in. Right? And they're putting an accelerometer in there. So what that enables is lift to wake. So instead of having to press the Xbox button, now that as soon as you lift the controller, it just wakes. Then they also talk about quieter button and thumbstick. And then, in approachability, they actually do talk about engage and delight, which is basically lift to wake. So as soon as controller, it wakes up and it's ready to play. And if you look at this controller, it's an interesting two-tone design. There's a rubberized grip all over the section that you grip your controller. The entire top is a glossy plastic. It's white and black two-tone design. Looks interesting. This might just be a render, though. It might not be the actual product that we see. We'll know soonish though. And it shouldn't be very far from what we have. And also, they go ahead and talk about familiar Xbox feel. So the same ergonomics and as Merlin, which is the previous generation controller. Same layouts and activation forces. The activation force is basically the force that you need to activate buttons in. And XE, LE, and XDL options as expected. Standard edition, limited edition. There will be like standard edition runs and limited edition runs. XDL, I believe, Xbox Design Lab. So we'll have the customizability of the current controller with this controller. For sustainability, they talk about rechargeable and swappable batteries. So are they going to include a rechargeable, swappable battery now with the controller? So basically the plug-in charge kit that Xbox sells right now, maybe that's included with this controller. And then they talk about durability and reliability. They are talking about new modular thumbsticks, which is interesting. Would I be able to swap out the thumbsticks if I want without any issues? I don't know. Maybe it might still need opening your controller and like unplugging some stuff. Might be it's easier. You might not have to desolder stuff and just pop it out. Improved longevity and continued build improvements. These are all the improvements to Shelby, the new Xbox Premium controller. And then talking about the mid-gen goals, they talk about delighting players, enabling creators, and unlocking ubiquity. There's a lot of things going on in this slide, and already 41 minutes into this podcast. So I'm gonna rush through these. We have already talked about all of these. They are just trying to keep the cost same, refresh the ID, and reduce power, get into the all-digital ecosystem, and get Bluetooth 5.2 and Wi-Fi 6E. That will push the technology forward. But the interesting thing I see here, address customer feedback. In that it says XDL for console. Basically means Xbox Design Lab for console. It will be interesting. They have never done this before, and it might be tricky with the supply chain, but we'll see. With the recent wraps that they announced, I'm not sure how that will pair up with this, if plans have evolved or if they're still trying to do Xbox Design Lab for console and the wraps are just a stopgap till they get to that process, customizing consoles. That will be really, really cool. And then they talk about the voice of the player. This I found really funny because they're trying to talk through the voice of the players and how the PR would be like. But I don't know. Loving the new storage options and fresh look of the Xbox Series X. But the real highlight is the new controller. Awesome new haptics, rechargeable battery, and I connected directly to the cloud. They're very much focused on directly to the cloud, and the real highlight is the controller. So that's what we saw with PS5. Everyone just talked about the DualSense. So maybe that's what they're trying to get out of the mid-gen refreshes. Everyone talks about this controller, the Series X and Series X, because there is no spec bump, mostly being a die reduction and storage bump. This is the new exciting thing that will push people at the new. All right, all of these are other voice of players that we'll see if people feel that way. If you look at Twitter, more toxic than what Xbox believes it to be. And now let's look at the launch timeline. We're looking at launch timelines. Shelby launches at $70 in June 24. So next year, they're going to launch Shelby, which is the new premium controller. Then June, they say Xbox Gaming Beat is basically the E3 or whatever we want to call it now, June showcase. In July next year, they want to announce Elwood and Brooklyn simultaneously. So they're going to announce both the Xbox Series X and Series S refreshes next year. And end of August is when the Series S launches for $299, and in November is when the Series X launches. And then there is additional storage options that will be announced in FY25. So in 2025, they're planning to announce another version, maybe with 2 terabytes for Series S and 3 terabytes for Series X. And then they talk about 60-day separation between the launch of these two devices that will enable dialogue with different audiences. Makes sense? They will focus on the Series S consumers first, then focus on the high-end with the Series X. And that allows them to focus on new improvements in Shelby, which is the new controller, and tell stories beyond the console. Direct to cloud. They're trying really hard to push direct to cloud and get more consumers just by the controller and subscribe to Game Pass on the cloud. And that adds value to the Brooklyn and Elwood announce. Gives Elwood its own moment, as I said earlier than the holiday time frame to maximize sales. So they are trying to maximize Series S. And last chance edit 512 gig at $199. So if you are waiting till next year, might be able to get the Series S at $199, 512 gig version. And Brooklyn arrives just in time for the gifting season, but separate from Elwood. So that's why they're trying to get Series S way ahead of the holiday season. X for the holidays gifting. And then we look at this chart that is just talking about mid-gen devices lineup and delivering on player needs. So they talk about improving the Xbox Wireless, improving Bluetooth, adding USB-C in some cases. They're only adding USB-C on Series X, not on Series S, which is interesting. And they will include the new controller in box. That's the initial plan. All right, that's great. Yeah, everything else looks exactly the same as before. But both the Series X and Series S is all digital now. The interesting part that I see here is the Xbox Series X in XDL, which is basically Xbox Design Lab. So you can, maybe the wraps are for the square form factor, and it will be difficult to put a wrap on the circular form factor. So that's why maybe they are giving you an option that Xbox Design Lab involved. Ooh, yeah, this is the scenarios, mid-gen scenarios. They are estimating sales. There is two visions that they have: full fair heaven and limited fair heaven. I don't know what fair heaven means, but we're just gonna go with it. So consoles, with the full fair heaven version, they have new storage options, refreshed ID, fully featured Shelby bundled in, which is where we're going to have Shelby, which is the new controller, bundled into the box. And with that, they're estimating a 3-year volume of 29 million, which is good. And by financial year 27, they're expecting to sell about 59 million consoles. Cool, good estimates. But for the controller, fully featured Shelby that is included in the product, then they're also talking about the refresh Elite line. So they might release Elite Series 3 and direct-to-controller enabling cloud growth endpoints. So with all of this, they are hoping to get 80 million in controller sales. That's a huge volume. And 3 years growth margin is $1.5 billion. But then they are also talking about limiting the fair haven investment. And that they're bundling in a pared down version of Shelby. Basically a cost down version of the Elite, of the premium controller, might not have some features. What that means, pared down version. So we have not seen at least one version of Xbox controller in works. With that, they're estimating a 25 million year volume, that is 4 million less than the entire sub included. So they're hoping that people will buy console if controller isn't. I get it now. So they're talking about if they are going to go the full vision, which is a fully featured Shelby or a pared down Shelby. They're not going to develop both. They're developing one or two, and we might just be saying the pared down version of Shelby when we saw it in this leak. There might be a fully featured version of Shelby that we haven't seen at all. And if they're assuming that there is no Elite business, so basically they are, by FY25, that's when the Xbox Elite Series 2 dies and there is no new Elite Series. And then there's a limited attach cloud endpoints with this pared down Shelby. So maybe the only difference with the pared down Shelby is the direct to cloud connection that they were talking about. That won't be there in this case. That case, they're just gonna sell this out, and they're estimating that the 3-year volume of the consoles will go down to just 56 million. That of controllers, I should say. The 3-year volume of controllers is 56 million. That is 24 million down. And then in that case, the 3-year gross margin will be $1.1 billion. That's about 400 million less. All right, let's keep going. All of this is talking about their plans and what's funded, what's not currently funded, and not in scope of the first party. So they might work with third party to develop some of these things like the media remote, media controller, mobile controller, handheld, and earbuds. Okay, so that's not in scope for first party right now. Then there is some things that are not currently funded. That is the Elite controller, luxury controller. I don't even know what that means. Console customization via XDL. So basically, Xbox Design Labs Series X is not yet, it's not yet funded, so we might never see it. PC accessories, which is basically mouse and keyboards that are Xbox branded. Audio portfolio expansion, so they are also looking at other headsets, maybe an in-ear headset or something of that sort that we haven't seen yet. Those are not funded, but what is funded is Cloud Console Keystone, but it is dead now. We know that. So this document is at least a couple years old because Keystone is dead already. That was the cloud-only version of the console. Gen 10 investigations are ongoing. Mid-gen consoles, Elwood and Brooklyn, are already ongoing. Wireless headset 1.5. There's basically a new version of wireless headset coming. Core controller Shelby. I thought that was a premium controller, but it says core here, so maybe it's a replacement of the core controller. Xbox Design Lab for mid-gen controller. There's a mid-gen controller. Like Grain, we have not heard about anything about that yet, so there might be a design lab for that. Right, open items, there are a lot of open items that they're going to talk about. This is more consumer focused, nothing that we get out of it. So I'm going to skip over these and dive right into this email from John Emil Elien. So all of the things that we talked about right now were like Xbox strategy going forward and what Xbox might do for 2030. But let's talk about some of the pain points that people within Microsoft are talking. So John Emil Elien, he's like a partnered software architect. And he mentioned in an email to Phil, like, honestly, I don't know. I don't really know what goes into closing and studio, how much funding versus personal versus output feed into the decision. But he mentions that he is super worried about the moat you have built, moat being Xbox Game Pass, and that the winds will change and we will have a bloodbath a few years down the road. And then basically what he means, might have to close a lot of studios if we have enough output, if we have enough money from Game Pass. And he clearly says, not my job, I appreciate. So trying to train my mental model and how to think about the content side of the house, to not be worried, especially where the economics have changed with Game Pass. Interesting. But what Phil says is, I don't think we have ever closed a studio due to studio's P&L. P&L stands for profit and loss. So they've never closed a studio because the studio was making loss. Almost always been either from leadership leaving. Lionhead as an example. Lionhead was the studio that developed Fable games. With the leadership leaving, they had to close the studio because there was no leadership and management maybe. Or the team just losing its passion. Ensemble, for an example. Ensemble is a studio that I loved a lot. I played all the AoE games, all the Age of Mythology, Age of Empires, even the Halo Wars games that they developed. They were all really great. I really loved them. I don't understand really how they lost their passion, but I hope they had their passion and kept going. But yeah, that's harsh words, and that's how studios end. Was another leak that showed Microsoft's approach following the acquisitions. This chart talks about games like Deathloop, Ghostwire Tokyo, Fallout 76, Elder Scrolls Online, Starfield, Redfall, and Elder Scrolls. And we have already seen a lot of these, and we know a lot about this. Deathloop and Ghostwire being PlayStation exclusives. They were launched on PlayStation and PC only. They were never launched on Xbox at launch. They came in a year later on Game Pass and launched on Xbox entirely. Then Fallout 76 already existed on PlayStation and Xbox, and they kept releasing their updates and more content expansion. Elder Scrolls Online, they're an existing IP, they're a multiplayer game. They have released on PlayStation. They will continue to support as expected. So the Microsoft statement on exclusivity, what Elder Scrolls Online was, ESO will continue to be supported exactly as it was, and we fully expect it to keep growing and thriving each of the platforms that it's currently supported. So they're not planning to put new platforms like the Nintendo Switch, but they're going to keep supporting it. For Starfield and Redfall, obviously we know that these were the big box exclusives. What it says, what the Microsoft statement was, one of the things that most excited is seeing the roadmap of Bethesda's future games. Some announced, some unannounced. Xbox and PC, including Starfield, and the highly anticipated new Space Epic, currently in development at the game studio. That has proved to be a good console driver for Microsoft. Yesterday, they announced that Starfield has already passed 10 million, and it is the biggest Bethesda game launch ever. And for Elder Scrolls 6, the plan is currently to just put it on Xbox. And the Microsoft statement is, in order to be on Xbox, I want us to be able to bring the full complete package of what we have. That would be true when I think about Elder Scrolls 6. I don't understand what that means. Then this was interesting. This basically released everything out in the market of what ZeniMax thinking about. So this is about all the games that Bethesda Game Studios and ZeniMax as a whole was planning till 2024. And this is an older document from 2020, as you can see. We see all of these games that were released. So Doom Eternal already released. ESO Online's Greymore expansion already released in 2020. Fallout Westlanders, Deathloop, all of them were there. Starfield was supposed to be a FY21 release, and it slipped 2 years. Elder Scrolls Online came on time. Redfall again slipped 2 years. Doom Eternal DLC, that came on time actually. Ghostwire Tokyo came in 21. All of that looked good. Fallout 76 came out on time. Project Hibiki. This was a good one. Project Hibiki is actually Hi-Fi Rush that was shadow dropped in earlier this year. Even that was about a year and a half late, but January 2023 it released. So yeah, a lot of these games we already knew about, but the interesting ones here are FY 2022. You see Indiana Jones game that is supposed to be released next year now. So everything is running 2 years late. But then there is an Oblivion remaster. So Oblivion will get a remaster, which is great. A lot of people love Oblivion, and they would obviously want to get a remaster. It's an old game, so a remaster is great. So the thing is, Bethesda and Microsoft never got to surprise us with this release, with this leak. We now know that Oblivion remaster is in works. Doom Year Zero and DLC. So Doom Year Zero and DLC is what excites me the most from this entire document. Doom Years, because it says year Zero, I'm assuming that it is a prequel to all the Doom games, and we'll get to play the initiation of Doom, which will be cool. And then there are other projects, like Project Crystal that I know nothing about, Project Platinum. There's a licensed IP game that was planned for 24, so now we will assume that it comes out in 26, right? There is Dishonored 3, that is cool. And then I also see Ghostwire Tokyo sequel. So there is a Ghostwire Tokyo sequel coming, and adding to the remasters is Fallout 3 remaster. That would be all of these games. Obviously, Microsoft would have wanted to have announce some at the Game Awards, announce some at January event, and announce some in the June event. But all of them is out there. The ones that I'm more excited about are, as I said, Doom Year Zero is really exciting. The Oblivion remaster and Fallout 3 remaster. All of these three are really cool. Obviously, love to have them. And looking at the revenue forecasts, let's look at a few. Elder Scrolls 6, they expect $1,000 million. Ooh. Starfield, overall, they were expecting about $900 million in revenue. If it was released in FY21, they were expecting to make $600 million the first year and then stepping down. What is this licensed IP game that they're expecting $225 million from? It should be a big IP where they're expecting to. Because the Indiana Jones game, the first year they're expecting $230. Something that is of the same cadence as Indiana Jones, or at least the same popularity as Indiana. What do you guys think this might be? But no idea. There were leaks about a Mandalorian game at one. That Mandalorian? Don't know. We'll see about that. Alright, this is the one. This is the slide that tells us all about how much Microsoft pays to get all of these games on Game Pass. I'll go talk about a few examples. First of all, they thought that Baldur's Gate 3 was a wow factor. I don't know what that means. So the wow factor is mid, low, hub plus, and hub. I don't know. I don't have a decoder code for that, so I don't know how to decode that. But yeah, they talk about return and how likely to close is another thing. Oh, that's cool. So they thought that City Skyline 2 is low likely to close, but we now know that it is launching day one on Game Pass. They closed that deal. Baldur's Gate 3, they said mid likeliness to close, but I don't think it's coming on Game Pass. And now let's look at some of the prices, right? So, for example, when they're talking about Red Dead Redemption 2, expected partner ask is $5 million per month. So, Microsoft pays Rockstar Games $5 million per month to get Red Dead Redemption 2 on Game Pass. And for GTA 5, as you can see, it's close to $15 million per month. Then they also estimate the hours, so they can get 30 million hours per month from their customers. So they're hoping to recoup their investment, obviously. But then they look at the other ones. Other ones are tricky. Dying Light 2, the partner ask is expected to be $50 million. If we look at Jedi Survivor, that's $300 million expected partner ask. That's crazy. 300 million, you can get someone to develop a game for you for 300 million. Why would you pay 300 million to get a game? That's crazy though. These numbers are crazy. Even for Mortal Kombat 1, which was called Mortal Kombat Next at that point, $250 million for Mortal Kombat 2 Game Pass. So these are estimates based on their previous deals, I'm hoping. Mortal Kombat 10 and everything was on Game Pass. Wonder how much they were paying for all of those games. This is amazing, though. This gives us an insight into all of these things that were not supposed to be leaked. These are very confidential, very, very confidential. Right? They don't want anyone to know, even Sony or anyone. Like these numbers are out in the market now, and the competitors know how much Microsoft pays for these games. So now they can go and talk to the partners and try to compete for it. Yeah, that's crazy. That's why these are so confidential documents, and someone messed up pretty bad to have these eased out. Right, moving ahead. In another document, Microsoft talks about how each generation of Xbox has brought new innovations to Microsoft. So Xbox, the first one, they brought Xbox Live and DirectX innovation. The DirectX was the technology that was powering everything. With Xbox 360, they brought the digital media store, which was cool, and Kinect. It was a boon and a bane. It was a boon for 360, and it was a lot of fun to play with, but it really, really killed Xbox One, killed the sales, because it was bundled. But Xbox One, as they say, it brought DirectX innovation, another innovation somewhere. I don't know what they're talking about there. But then they brought in the Xbox security processor and Game Pass. Game Pass was the main thing that came out of Xbox One. With Xbox Series X and S, they are talking about Project X Cloud as the main innovation that comes in with Series X and S, and direct storage. A lot of people have not really used DirectX storage yet, but the most interesting thing here is the DFA and manufacturing. DFA stands for Design for Assembly. So their console is really neatly packaged and really beautifully designed for assembly. That's a real good innovation. And for next gen, that is 2028, we're talking about cloud hybrid games. I'm still to see what a cloud hybrid game or a super game means. They have signed Kojima-san, and they have also signed Sega to make these games. We'll see when they come out. And then they talk about immersive game and app platforms. So they're hoping that the console just fades in the background and you can have a similar experience on the phone. And from zero Microsoft to one Microsoft, this slide talks about how they are trying to get convergence on their end. So Xbox initial one was just a standalone hardware and software. With 360, the dev tools pair convergent. Xbox One, the OS and the SDK all converged. And with the Series X and S, the cloud-optimized hardware unified the game development kit. So the same development kit was used. And with the next gen, their idea is full convergence. I don't really understand what that means, but yeah to full convergence. And then they talk about their path to become the leaders in gaming. A lot of revenue numbers. They're talking about increasing their advertising on mobile platforms. They're hoping that by 2030, they get at least $8 million from subscriptions, and then about $17 billion from transactions and on the console or cloud, basically add-ons or games that you buy on there. And then there is $7 billion in profit on hardware. But the thing that jumps up a lot in FY30 is advertising. Currently, the advertising is at like $0.1 billion. They're expecting it to grow to $1.4 billion. I think that has a lot more to do with their mobile push. So if they get ABK, then all the King games, they have advertisements running in them. So they will have a much broader scope for Microsoft advertising there. And then mobile transactions. So they're hoping they'll make some money on the mobile transactions as well. So people buying skins and stuff on mobile. We'll see how that goes, because Microsoft is not really focusing on launching native games on Android or iPhones a lot. Few of them are there. They're like Forza Heat or something. Few games. With ABK being under their umbrella, if it happens, they will get Candy Crush and all of that. So maybe that's the mobile transactions they're talking about. But there's still a big growth. From FY22, it was 18 billion in total, and they're trying to double it in 36. And now let's talk about the most engaged Xbox Game Pass titles. The one that surprised me here was Forza Horizon 4. I didn't expect it to be a number 3. GTA 5 makes sense. Big game. Everyone plays that. At number 1. there was Minecraft. But Forza Horizon 4 surprised me. PS5 as at number 5 was great. See, so if you look at this list, a lot of Microsoft games are actually in there. The Outer Worlds, a Halo Master Chief Collection, State of Decay, Minecraft Dungeons, Halo 5 Guardians. Out of these 19 games, at least 8 or 9 are actually Xbox Game Pass games or Microsoft games, which is great to see. But if we go to the next slide now, we talk about the subsidy that Microsoft is giving. So the useful data points are our financial year 21 gaming profit and loss had a $1.5 billion hardware subsidy with the $499 and $299 price point on the. As I've been talking about, they lose a lot of money on each console sale, and with this generation, because they wanted to be more powerful than the 5, this is their largest hardware subsidy ever. The $1.5 billion is the loss that Microsoft made on selling all of these. Our FY21 budget for AM is about $930 million, which does not meet the traditional 10% AM year-to-year growth that we would be running gaming under the past 5 years. So in 2021, they didn't hit their 10% year-to-year growth target. Gaming will have its largest revenue year in FY21, reaching $12 billion in revenue. Q2 FY21 will be our largest gaming quarter in the gaming history, which is all to do with new game consoles and everything launched. We had our largest launch for Xbox console with Scarlett, but will fall behind Xbox 360 in the quarter due to supply. Okay, so the launch was great. They launched Xbox Series X, and it was the biggest launch Xbox has ever had, which they told us initially. It's good to hear that there was consumer demand and selling them. But then they fell behind because they could not produce enough. The final point of this slide is somewhat random antidote, but we are also selling 20x the weekly run rate of Xbox One S right now. We'll sell out immediately, permanently this month, leaving us with Xbox Series N as our 2 consoles. So this is basically from long back, because they were initially selling the Xbox Series S. They had some consoles in stock, so they were selling it. But now we are just in the final few things I want to talk about in this podcast. I know we have been over an hour, so I'll try to end this podcast soon. But I hope you guys are enjoying the podcast so far. If you are, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube. Helps us out a ton. And if you're listening to us on an audio platform, don't forget to turn your notifications on and follow our podcast. Right. So Phil Spencer's email is really interesting about the about the PS5 reveal. He says, even as I type this, I know I shouldn't, but I can't help myself. We have all lived with 7 years of starting off a generation with a price and performance and messaging disadvantage to PS4 with the Xbox One. Xbox One had a weaker GPU, it was bundled with Kinect, a lot of issues, as we all know. That's why PS4 sold off the shelves, even though Xbox 360 was the most dominant console the generation prior. I have to admit, this morning when I woke up, knowing the PS5 reveal was today, the stress level was higher than normal. Now, after almost 12 hours of soaking in their unveil, taking apart their specs and looking at the community responses, I just wanted to say how proud I am of our team. So this is the email that Phil is sending to Satya, the Microsoft CEO. And he says, we have a better product than Sony does, not just on hardware, but both equally important on the software platform and services on top of the hardware. We have the ingredients of a winning plan. I felt the feedback from the BOD discussion on being too confident, and maybe this will just reinforce that perception. I get the need to be humbly confident, but today was a good day for us. So Phil was very confident that they're going to do better than the PS5. Doesn't look like that with the numbers of PS5 sales. They're still outselling Xbox by a lot. And he continues to go on and say, we haven't won anything. And I know we have had the hard discussion about pricing, profit and loss, and investment, etc. This mail isn't trying to scoop any of that. Those discussions really matter, but we can take confidence in the product truth here. And I do believe any conversations need to start with believing in that. This was a good day for Xbox. So yeah, it was really a good day. We all know that the Xbox Series X is 12 teraflops, which is about 20-30% powerful than the PS5. PS5 is 10 teraflops, 12 teraflops. We haven't really seen that media push that we were seeing in the Xbox One days. A lot of the gaming media outlets were really focusing on Xbox games running at a lower resolution. We don't see that very often new generation, even though a lot of PS5 games run at a lower resolution or a lower frame rate. Not as pushed in the media as it used to be. Not trying wolf here. I'm not trying to push a bias. Maybe just media has evolved over the wars and they're trying to focus on something. That's what it is. Phil Spencer really wanted to buy Nintendo. He mentioned, I totally agree, that Nintendo is the prime asset for us in gaming. And gaming today, our most likely path to consumer relevance, which is true. As you know, Microsoft is not great with phones. They had the Windows Phone, built it off. They had the Surface Duo, because their Android phone, not doing great. Only direct consumer access that Microsoft has is their Xbox and only with gaming. I think they should focus on that, and that's what Phil is talking about here. This is a long letter, so I won't go through all of that. But looking at the second highlight that I have there, confidently, we have two fairly active M&A discussions in gaming right now. M&A basically acquisition acquisitions. Warner Bros. Interactive and ZeniMax. I took ZeniMax to the BOD last week, and prior to the BOD discussion, I asked Satya and Amy if they wanted me to slow either or both of these, given the TikTok discussions, and they both emphatically said no. This was all during that Trump time when they were Microsoft was actually trying to get by TikTok US, and Trump was forcing TikTok to sell their US business. And then Phil went and asked Satya, like, we have these two companies that we're trying to acquire. We're trying to acquire Warner Bros. And ZeniMax. Should I stop these decisions or pause any of them? No. Keep going forward. So Microsoft was all in on gaming. Good to hear. It's been a while since Microsoft was all in on gaming. And finally, he says, at some point, getting Nintendo would be a career movement. And I honestly believe a good move for both companies. Just taking a long time for Nintendo to see their future exists off their own hardware, a long time. But Nintendo is actually doing pretty well. So maybe this is from 2020 and they underestimated Nintendo. Obviously, it is a feather in cap and a career moment for anyone who can acquire Nintendo. I'm not saying Phil is the villain here, but yeah, he underestimated Nintendo. He still believes that the future exists off their hardware. So if you imagine Mario Kart and Mario and Zelda on your PC, that'd be a good day. Would be a good. But we need to talk about this. We need to talk about the drought of Xbox games in 2022. So this is an email that Phil sent to Matt Booty and Sarah Bond and all of the gaming leadership. We keep talking about AAA games a quarter in the service, and it feels like we are likely going to go through a gap of almost 16 months between big exclusive launches on our platform, which was a pain point and a complaint point of a lot of Xbox consumers 2022. Halo Infinite, being our last on December 8th, 2021. This really is a disaster situation for us, given all we have invested in content across studios at our GP Content Fund. We need to learn from this and build a plan going forward, which is good. Yeah, they are trying to learn from mistakes going forward. It was a long gap, right? With Redfall and everything, there was a big gap. So he talks, now let's roll up the sleeves and get planning to the next 2 years of games. First, we need to build an accurate list of game launches that are coming in the next 24 months with expected date. For now, I don't want to litter this with content updates or seasons of existing game. We need launches. Let's build this across 1P, 2P, and 3P, looking at Game Pass launches. So first party, second party, third party, anyone who is launching on Game Pass is what matters. That's what he's talking about. I think we're going to see that our next big new game launch is Redfall. So hopefully. So he was really skeptical about Redfall being good. So Redfall is actually didn't really do well, and it was really poorly received. So Starfield was basically the next big launch, next big AAA launch since Halo Infinite. It was a long 2 years wait. I am not saying they were not Game Pass launches. There was Pentiment, there was Hi-Fi Rush. These were both critically acclaimed games, both good games. But these were not the AAA games that we expect from Game Pass and what Phil specifically expected. And this part really intrigued me. I'm sending this now as I feel real pressure for Tamarind and how we are going to show up in terms of date. It will be very obvious to the community with both our lack of updates on so many games and the lack of clarity on almost everything in the show that we are out of position. So, I don't know what Project Tamarind is. Something that is unannounced, we have not heard about, really. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of the Xbox Show podcast. This was episode 3 for September 20th, 2023. If you did, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube. Send this out to your friends. And follow us on all your favorite podcast services. And apart from the podcast, we have a lot of content pumping up in the next few weeks. We already have the Starfield controller video up for a couple weeks. Go give that a look and let me know what else you want Xbox Show to focus on. I'll catch you guys in the next video.